What if the way you eat could literally starve cancer cells, rebuild your immune system, and train your body to burn fat as fuel? Even while you sleep. That's not hype, that's metabolic science. And over the last decade, a wave of research in nutritional neuroscience and metabolic oncology has revealed something powerful. Food is not just fuel, it's molecular information. Every bite you take sends chemical signals that either switch on healing or quietly accelerate damage beneath the surface. Take this. Cancer cells, unlike healthy cells, are metabolically inflexible. They thrive on glucose, sugar, and struggle to survive without it. Meanwhile, your healthy cells are far more adaptable. They can burn ketones, amino acids, and even fatty acids. That one difference opens up an entire field of dietary interventions designed not only to promote healing and reduce inflammation, but to starve cancer cells of what they need to grow. And here's something else. Many of the same mechanisms that prevent cancer, like reducing chronic insulin spikes, enhancing mitochondrial health, or calming systemic inflammation, also support fat burning, energy, and sharper cognitive function. So the question becomes, are you eating in a way that heals or harms you? That single decision, made 3 or more times a day, could be your greatest leverage point for long-term vitality, disease resistance, and mental clarity. In this episode, we're diving into 6 powerful science-backed food strategies you can use starting today. We'll explore a daily timing trick that flips your metabolic switch from fat storage to fat burn, a fat molecule found in certain foods that boosts immunity and suppresses tumor growth, a compound in cruciferous vegetables that actively turns off cancer-promoting genes, the surprising metabolic benefit of skipping one common healthy food group, a fermented food that supercharges your gut-brain axis, and a specific eating protocol that mimics the benefits of chemotherapy without the side effects. Each of these insights is grounded in real research, not trend-driven hype. And more importantly, they're practical. You can begin applying them today. Let's get into the science and the tools. Imagine if the simple act of when you eat could switch your body from fat storage mode to fat burning mode, while also reducing your risk of cancer, type 2 diabetes, and even cognitive decline. That's not science fiction. That's circadian biology, and it's where we begin. The body runs on internal clocks, not just in your brain, but in nearly every cell. Your liver, pancreas, fat cells, and even your immune cells all operate on a 24-hour rhythm. These clocks regulate gene expression, hormone release, and even how efficiently you metabolize food. When these rhythms are aligned, your body functions like a well-tuned machine. But when they're misaligned, like eating late at night or snacking around the clock, it's like flooding the engine. Metabolic dysfunction builds quietly over time. This is where time-restricted feeding comes in. Unlike calorie restriction, which focuses on how much you eat, timers focuses on when you eat, typically within a window of 8 to 10 hours during the daytime. Aligning food intake with your body's natural metabolic peaks, here's what the research shows. In a landmark study published in Cell Metabolism by Dr. Sachin Panda's team at the Salk Institute, mice fed a high-fat diet only within an 8 to 9 hour window, stayed lean and metabolically healthy, even when consuming the same number of calories as mice who ate freely across the day and night. Those that ate whenever they wanted gained weight, developed insulin resistance, and showed signs of liver damage. In humans, the effects are equally striking. Clinical trials show that eating earlier in the day and fasting for 14 to 16 hours overnight improves glucose control, enhances fat oxidation, reduces inflammation, and boosts energy, independent of weight loss. So what's happening in your brain and body during TRF? When you fast beyond 12 hours, your insulin levels drop, which signals your body to shift from burning glucose to tapping into fat stores. This metabolic shift increases production of ketone bodies, molecules that don't just fuel the brain more efficiently, but also activate genes linked to longevity and cellular repair. Even more fascinating, prolonged nightly fasting activates autophagy, your cell's internal recycling system. Damaged mitochondria and dysfunctional proteins are cleared out, reducing oxidative stress, a key driver of both aging and cancer development. And here's the cancer connection. Cancer cells, as we mentioned earlier, are glucose hungry and thrive in high insulin environments. By lowering insulin and blood glucose consistently, TRF creates a metabolic terrain that is hostile to cancer growth, while enhancing immune surveillance, the process by which your immune system detects and destroys abnormal cells. So, how do you apply this? Start with a 12-12 window, for example, eating from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., and gradually tighten it to 10-14 or even 8-16, finishing your last meal 2 to 3 hours before bed. Drink only water, black coffee, or unsweetened tea outside your eating window. And most importantly, keep the window consistent, even on weekends. Your circadian system thrives on rhythm. A simple tool to remember this: start light, end early. Front load your calories earlier in the day when insulin sensitivity is highest, and avoid heavy meals late at night when your body is preparing for cellular repair, not digestion. Have you ever noticed feeling foggy or sluggish after a late night snack? That's not just coincidence. That's circadian mismatch. By aligning food intake with your body's biological rhythm, you optimize not just fat metabolism, but brain function, energy, and hormonal balance. This isn't about restriction, it's about rhythm, giving your body the time and space it needs to function at its best. What if a specific type of fat could turn off chronic inflammation, train your immune system to destroy tumors, and enhance fat metabolism all at once? That's the promise of omega-3 fatty acids, and they may be one of the most overlooked yet powerful tools for healing, disease prevention, and performance. Let's unpack the science. Omega-3s, especially EPHAs, eicosapentaenoic acid, and DHA, docosahexaenoic acid, are long-chain polyunsaturated fats primarily found in cold water fish like salmon, sardines, and mackerel. They're also found in smaller amounts in algae oil, making them accessible for plant-based eaters. Now, why are they so critical? Your body uses fats to build every cell membrane, especially in your brain and immune cells. But the type of fat you consume determines the type of signal your immune system sends. Omega-6 fats from seed oils, fried foods, and processed snacks tend to amplify inflammatory signals. Omega-3s do the opposite. They generate compounds called resolvins and protectins, which actively resolve inflammation rather than letting it simmer indefinitely. And here's what that means in practice. In a 2013 study in cancer research, researchers found that diets rich in EPA and DHA inhibited tumor growth in mice and significantly reduced pro-inflammatory cytokines, the chemical messengers that drive cancer progression. In human studies, such as those from Harvard School of Public Health, higher circulating levels of omega-3s have been associated with a lower risk of cancer mortality, particularly in breast and colon cancer. But this isn't just about cancer. Omega-3s also modulate immunometabolism, the intersection of metabolism and immune function. When your immune system is inflamed, it shifts your metabolism into a chronic stress state, high cortisol, insulin resistance, and fat storage. Omega-3s help recalibrate this, steering immune cells toward a more tolerant, healing phenotype. This reduces autoimmune flare-ups, calms the gut, and allows your metabolism to burn rather than hoard fuel. And there's more. In the brain, DHA is a primary structural component of neurons and synapses. It increases BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, a protein critical for learning and memory. Low DHA levels have been linked to cognitive decline, depression, and even accelerated brain aging. So how do you apply this? Here's the protocol backed by clinical data. Aim for 2 to 3 servings of oily fish per week: wild salmon, sardines, anchovies, or mackerel. If you're plant-based, consider supplementing with algae-directed EPA/DHA at a dose of 1,000 to 2,000 milligrams per day. Minimize high omega-6 seed oils like corn, soybean, and sunflower to restore balance between omega-3 and omega-6 ratios, ideally closer to 1:1 to 1:4. You can also enhance absorption by eating these fats with fat-soluble antioxidants like vitamin E, found in sunflower seeds and avocados, which help prevent oxidation. And if you're someone who's struggled with chronic inflammation, brain fog, or weight that won't budge, take a look at your omega-3 intake. This might be a missing piece. Quick pause. If you're finding these science-backed tools helpful, consider subscribing. This channel is all about turning complex neuroscience and biology into clear, practical protocols you can use to take control of your mind and body. There's a lot more to come, and I'd love for you to be part of it. Back to the science. Fat isn't the enemy. The wrong kind of fat is. Omega-3s are nature's built-in defense system against chronic inflammation, against disease, and even against metabolic decline. And the best part? You don't need to overhaul your diet overnight. You just need to start shifting your fat intake from inflammatory to anti-inflammatory, from chaos to clarity. There's a compound found in broccoli sprouts, a tiny bitter plant, that activates more disease-fighting genes than almost any pharmaceutical drug on the market. It's called sulforaphane, and it might be one of the most powerful natural cancer-fighting tools we know of. What makes it so remarkable is not just what it blocks, but what it activates. Sulforaphane is a glucosinolate, a type of sulfur-rich compound found in cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, kale, cauliflower, cabbage, and Brussels sprouts. But when you chew or chop these vegetables, enzymes convert the precursor into sulforaphane, which then gets absorbed and begins signaling profound cellular changes. One of the key pathways sulforaphane triggers is called NRF2, short for nuclear factor erythroid 2 factor 2. This is a master regulator of over 200 genes involved in detoxification, antioxidant production, DNA repair, and inflammation control. Here's what the research shows. In a 2012 study published in Cancer Prevention Research, participants who consumed a beverage made from broccoli sprout extract showed significantly increased excretion of carcinogens, specifically benzene and acrolein, through enhanced liver detoxification pathways. Other studies, such as those from Johns Hopkins, have shown that sulforaphane activates tumor suppressor genes and inhibits enzymes involved in cancer cell proliferation. In other words, it flips on genes that fight cancer and turns off genes that promote it. But this isn't just about reducing risk. It's about improving resilience. Sulforaphane also has neuroprotective effects. In mouse studies, it's been shown to reduce neuroinflammation and oxidative stress in the brain, both of which are linked to neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's. It also protects mitochondria, the energy engines of your cells, making them more efficient and less prone to damage. So, how can you start using sulforaphane as part of your daily healing and performance toolkit? That secret sauce, those additional compounds that enhance the healing that our body demands. So that secret sauce, here's a protocol backed by both clinical and mechanistic studies. Eat 1/2 to 1 cup of raw or lightly steamed broccoli sprouts daily. They contain up to 100 times more sulforaphane precursors than mature broccoli. Combine them with mustard seeds or a small amount of raw daikon or radish. These contain the enzyme irosinase, which enhances the conversion of precursors into bioactive sulforaphane. If sprouts aren't available, eat lightly steamed cruciferous vegetables several times a week. Kale, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, or cauliflower. Just avoid boiling them, which can destroy the enzymes needed for sulforaphane formation. Here's a simple tool. Add a handful of broccoli sprouts to your morning smoothie, salad, or even on top of eggs. You won't notice much of a flavor change, but the cellular impact is profound. Now you might ask, if this is so powerful, why haven't I heard more about it? The answer is sulforaphane isn't profitable in the way pharmaceuticals are. But in terms of effect size, activating detoxification pathways, improving antioxidant defenses, and reprogramming cancer genes, its impact is arguably larger than many single drug interventions. What's happening in your body when this occurs? Your cells go from defense mode to rebuild mode. Sulforaphane enhances glutathione production, your body's master antioxidant, and increases the activity of enzymes like heme oxygenase and quinone reductase. These protect your DNA, recycle damaged molecules, and neutralize oxidative stress, the slow cellular wear and tear that underlies cancer, aging, and metabolic dysfunction. And all of that from a tiny, peppery sprout. This isn't about magic foods. It's about compounds that send the right signals. Sulforaphane is a signal, and that signal tells your body, clean up, repair, and protect. Let's talk about a habit that silently undermines your metabolism, feeds disease, and accelerates fat storage. One that's become so normalized we hardly question it anymore. It's the overconsumption of ultra-processed carbohydrates, refined flours, sugars, and starches that disrupt blood sugar, promote inflammation, and keep your body trapped in a state of constant fat storage. The problem isn't carbohydrates in general. Your brain and muscles need glucose. The issue lies in the form, timing, and frequency, especially when carbs are stripped of fiber, combined with processed fats, and consumed multiple times per day. Here's what the research shows. A 2019 study in Cell Metabolism found that individuals who consumed ultra-processed foods, even when matched for calories, protein, fat, and sugar, ate over 500 more calories per day on average than those consuming unprocessed whole foods. Why? These foods hijack your satiety signals. They spike dopamine, disrupt insulin, and activate the brain's reward system in a way that drives compulsive overeating. When you eat these refined carbs, think bread, pastries, sugary cereals, pasta, or soda, your blood glucose spikes rapidly, followed by a sharp insulin surge. Over time, this leads to insulin resistance, where your cells stop responding effectively to insulin's signal. The result? Glucose and fat stay trapped in your bloodstream, and your body enters a state of metabolic gridlock. But here's the deeper issue. Cancer cells love glucose. In fact, one of the oldest techniques in oncology, called the Warburg effect, shows that cancer cells preferentially consume glucose through a process called aerobic glycolysis. They burn it inefficiently but rapidly, which fuels their uncontrolled growth. So when we constantly feed the body ultra-processed carbs, we're not just encouraging fat gain, we're also creating an internal environment that supports disease progression. What's happening in your brain during this? Frequent blood sugar spikes followed by crashes impair cognitive function, increase irritability, and contribute to what's now called post-meal hypoglycemia, where energy and focus tank 1 to 2 hours after eating. That afternoon brain fog, often a glucose roller coaster in disguise. Here's the fix, and it's surprisingly simple. Base your meals on protein, healthy fats, and fiber-rich vegetables. Save starchy carbs for after physical activity when your insulin sensitivity is highest. And when you do eat carbs, choose whole, intact sources like sweet potatoes, lentils, quinoa, steel-cut oats, or fruit with the skin on. And most importantly, stop grazing. Give your insulin time to fall between meals. A body constantly processing food never enters fat-burning mode. Try this protocol. No refined carbs for the first meal of the day. Instead, break your fast with protein, 20 to 30 grams, healthy fat like avocado or olive oil, and fiber, greens or berries. Use movement as a metabolic tool. A brisk 10-minute walk after meals can significantly blunt post-meal glucose spikes. Aim for a carb curfew. Avoid high-carb meals 3 to 4 hours before bed to improve insulin sensitivity and sleep quality. A simple phrase to anchor this shift: if it spikes, it stores. Meaning if your food causes a glucose spike, your body will store fat rather than burn it. Now, if this insight is hitting home, if you're seeing how food can be either information or inflammation, consider subscribing. This channel is here to equip you with the neuroscience and biology-backed tools to take control of your mind, your metabolism, and your future. There's more coming, and it's all practical. This isn't about restriction. It's about recalibration, about creating internal conditions where healing and performance become your baseline, not your exception. If I told you that what you feed your gut bacteria could affect your mood, metabolism, immune strength, and even cancer risk, would you believe it? Modern science does. And it's all thanks to what's called the gut-brain immune axis, a powerful bidirectional communication network between your digestive system, your nervous system, and your immune cells. And one of the simplest, most powerful tools to optimize that network is fermented food. We now know that your gut microbiome, the vast ecosystem of bacteria, viruses, fungi, and other microbes living in your digestive tract, plays a foundational role in everything from inflammation regulation to neurotransmitter production to immune function. Roughly 70% of your immune system resides in the gut, and disturbances in this microbial balance, called dysbiosis, are linked to autoimmune disorders, obesity, cancer, and depression. Fermented foods like sauerkraut, kimchi, kefir, plain yogurt, miso, and tempeh are rich in probiotics, live beneficial microbes, and postbiotics, the metabolic byproducts of those microbes, both of which send positive signals to your brain and immune system. In terms of fiber, there are many rich probiotics that can be difficult to deal with. But the main ones that are very frequently taken by many are salads, leafy greens, and postbiotics that come prepackaged. So in the past, like sauerkraut, kimchi, macrophae, salads, lemon. Here's what the research shows. In a 2021 study published in Cell by researchers at Stanford University, participants who consumed 6 servings of fermented foods daily for 10 weeks showed a significant increase in microbiome diversity and a reduction in 19 key inflammatory markers, including IL-6, one of the main cytokines involved in chronic disease and cancer progression. Another study in Nature Communications showed that probiotics from fermented foods increased activity of natural killer cells, a type of immune cell that hunts and destroys virus-infected and cancerous cells. So what's happening when you eat these foods? You're not just adding good bacteria. You're training your immune system. You're signaling to your gut lining to strengthen its barrier function, preventing leaky gut and systemic inflammation. And you're feeding the production of short-chain fatty acids like butyrate, which fuel the cells lining your colon and suppress tumor development. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. Your gut microbes also influence neurotransmitters like serotonin, over 90% of which is produced in the gut, GABA, and dopamine precursors, meaning your mood, focus, and emotional regulation are directly tied to your microbial landscape. Have you ever felt mentally foggy or irritable after eating junk food? That's not just digestion, that's microbiome signaling. So how do you use this insight? Start small, but consistent. Add 1 to 2 servings of fermented foods per day. A tablespoon of sauerkraut with lunch, half a cup of plain kefir or yogurt in the morning, a small side of kimchi with dinner. If you're dairy-free, go for coconut kefir or fermented vegetables. Just check that the label says contains live and active cultures. Rotate your fermented foods weekly to expose your gut to a broader spectrum of beneficial strains. Want a bonus protocol? Combine fermented foods with prebiotics, the fibers that feed your good bacteria. Think garlic, onions, leeks, Jerusalem artichoke, and green bananas. This duo, prebiotics plus probiotics, creates a symbiotic effect amplifying their health impact. And remember, consistency beats quantity. A spoonful a day over months will do more than a quart once a week. Here's a simple phrase to guide you. Feed your gut, fuel your brain. When you nourish the microbiome, you build a foundation for better thinking, stronger immunity, and more efficient fat burning. This isn't about trends. It's about tapping into evolutionary biology, restoring a relationship with food that humans have had for millennia before refrigeration and industrial processing stripped it away. Imagine if you could trigger the cellular benefits of fasting: autophagy, reduced inflammation, metabolic repair, even cancer cell suppression, without having to completely stop eating. That's the concept behind fasting-mimicking diets, a protocol developed by Dr. Walter Longo and his team at the Longevity Institute at USC. It's one of the most exciting frontiers in nutritional science, using nutrient manipulation to simulate the metabolic state of fasting while still consuming small amounts of food. Here's what the research shows. In clinical trials, FMDs done over 5-day cycles, once a month for several months, resulted in reduced abdominal fat, lowered IGF-1, a growth factor associated with cancer risk, improved insulin sensitivity, and increased markers of autophagy. In animal models, FMDs have been shown to delay aging, enhance cognitive function, regenerate immune cells. How does it work? During prolonged fasting, or fasting mimicking, your body shifts into a state of nutritional ketosis, using fat-direct ketone bodies instead of glucose. This switch reduces insulin and mTOR signaling, both pathways that promote cellular growth. While that might sound like a good thing, excessive or unchecked growth is exactly what cancer cells rely on. When you lower these growth signals while fasting, something amazing happens. Your healthy cells enter a protective, repair-oriented state, while damaged or cancerous cells become more vulnerable. It's called differential stress resistance. Healthy cells adapt and repair, but damaged ones die off. This is one reason researchers are now studying FMDs as adjuncts to chemotherapy, because they seem to sensitize tumors while shielding the rest of the body. But here's the powerful part. You don't have to stop eating to achieve these effects. You just have to eat in a very specific way. Low in protein and carbohydrates, modest in calories, and rich in plant-based fats. So how do you apply this? Here's a simplified do-it-yourself version based on Dr. Longo's published protocols. For 5 days, eat around 700 to 1,100 calories per day, depending on body size. Focus on plant-based fats, avocado, olives, nuts, coconut, non-starchy vegetables, spinach, mushroom, zucchini, kale, and small portions of legumes. Limit protein and carbs to suppress growth signals and keep insulin low. Avoid snacking. Space your meals to maintain a low insulin state throughout the day. Most people do this once per month for 3 to 6 months as a reset. Of course, speak to your healthcare provider before starting, especially if you have a medical condition, are underweight, or take medications. The key takeaway isn't that you need to fast for days. It's that strategic underfeeding, done correctly, can engage the body's deep repair systems that we often silence with constant eating, grazing, and nutrient overload. Here's a simple guiding phrase: feed to fuel, pause to repair. You don't need to eat less all the time, but creating regular windows of metabolic rest gives your body the signal to heal. And this isn't just about fat loss, it's about metabolic freedom. Training your body to switch fuel sources, eliminate damaged cells, and reduce the internal noise of chronic inflammation and hyperinsulinemia. You're not starving. You're signaling. And the message is rebuild, repair, protect. Let's take a step back. We've just explored 6 powerful, science-backed ways to use food, not as entertainment, not as escape, but as a biological signal to tell your body, heal, protect, and thrive. These aren't diet fads. They're rooted in core principles of neuroscience, immunology, metabolism, and circadian biology. And more importantly, they're adaptable. They meet you where you are. Whether your goal is to prevent disease, regain energy, sharpen your focus, or finally unlock fat loss that's been stalled for years, let's quickly recap. Time-restricted feeding aligns your eating with your circadian rhythm, flipping your metabolism from storage mode to burn mode, while activating cellular repair through fasting, omega-3s, calm chronic inflammation, and modulate immune function, reducing the internal signals that promote tumor growth and metabolic dysfunction. Sulforaphane, found in cruciferous vegetables and broccoli sprouts, activates detox and tumor-suppressing genes, literally turning on your body's own anti-cancer software. Eliminating ultra-processed carbs prevents glucose spikes, reduces insulin resistance, and deprives cancer cells of their primary fuel source. Fermented foods restore gut balance, lower systemic inflammation, and train your immune system, while also improving mood and cognitive clarity. Fasting-mimicking nutrition cycles stimulate the benefits of deep fasting, promoting autophagy, regenerating immune cells, and selectively weakening cancerous tissue, all while still eating. Now, let's get honest. Most people don't fail because they lack information. They fail because they try to overhaul everything at once and burn out. But that's not what this is about. This is about picking just one protocol that resonates with where you are right now and starting there. Maybe for you, it's shifting your meals into an 8 to 10 hour window. Maybe it's adding a spoonful of sauerkraut to your lunch. Or maybe it's simply taking ultra-processed carbs off your breakfast plate and swapping in something real, something your mitochondria actually recognize as fuel. Here's my challenge to you. Choose one of the 6 strategies from this episode and try it for the next 7 days. Track how you feel, your energy, your clarity, your sleep, your hunger. Don't aim for perfection. Aim for consistency. Because in the world of biology, consistency is what rewires systems. And if you do try one of these, share it in the comments. Let us know what you chose, how it's working, or what questions you have. This is a growing community of people who are reclaiming their health through science-backed choices, and your experience could inspire someone else to start. If you found value in this episode, consider subscribing. It's not just about views or numbers. It's about building a space where science meets action, where neuroscience, physiology, and behavioral tools turn into real transformation. We'll be covering more in the weeks ahead, from how your brain processes food decisions, to how to build ironclad habits, to supplements and lifestyle tools that complement what you eat. Remember, every bite is information, every choice is a signal, and every day is a chance to train your biology, not just for performance, but for protection. So eat wisely, live rhythmically, and I'll see you in the next episode.